I mean, Joe Scarborough is an imbecile. He's an insult to the entire Florida Gulf Coast region that he used to represent in Congress. I love those people. I love that region. I know that there are a ton of them listening to us right now, nodding along. But most importantly, he's just been flat out wrong. So you're going to call people morons, actually know what the data reflects, and also know that you are the moronic individual arguing that if you've gotten the fourth COVID shot, the first 3 didn't work, but the fourth was going to work, the fifth's going to work, the 50th or 60th booster shot that you're going to get for however many years you live for the rest of your life. You, my friend, are the actual moron, without a shadow of a doubt.
Of all the people who have been both supremely arrogant and intensely wrong when it comes to COVID, and that's a long list, right? I mean, I think Fauci is probably the pope of COVID wrongness, but there are other people out there who have been really nasty all along. Joe Biden's one of them, by the way. Joe Biden was horrible about COVID. But Joe Scarborough, can we remind everybody, Clay, first, here's what Joe Scarborough, what was this, a year ago, give or take?
March of 2021, he was telling everybody, lecturing on his MSNBC show, that if you didn't get the COVID shot, you were going to be spreading it to other people, which was why you had to get the shot. Just a refresher, a flashback.
To start making a huge political fuss about those of us who want to be able to take our kids with diabetes or upper respiratory issues or underlying conditions, or taking our parents to a concert or to a ball game, and to make sure that people around aren't going to infect them and put them in the hospital and possibly kill them, really is, it's having it both ways. You can stay locked up in your house if you want to, but it's just staggering to me.
It's just staggering, Clay, that he has, been asleep for the last year, can't read? How does he not know it doesn't stop the spread? We're going to get to what he says as of today in a second.
Yeah, but in March of 2021, and this was part and parcel of what he was telling his idiot audience at MSNBC for a long time. But you heard that clip. We just wanted to kind of convey to you the lies that he was helping to spread on behalf of Pfizer and Moderna, in particular, that if you got the COVID shot, you weren't going to spread or infect anyone else, right? And if you got, if you did, that it was your fault. How dare you try to, infect someone when you go to a baseball game or you go out to the movies or whatever. You just heard the audio of Scarborough there carrying the fraudulent argument that you would neither get nor transmit COVID once you got these shots. So that was in March of 2021. I don't know that he's ever apologized to his audience for getting that wrong. I don't know that he's ever apologized to all the people that he was implicitly calling out there. I would bet the answer is no, Buck, based on what he's still saying on his show.
So now we'll bring you up to the current moment. This is yesterday. Joe Scarborough's like, oh, man, I should have gotten, I got bad COVID. Should have gotten that fourth COVID shot, play two.
I had not gotten my COVID booster.
Mm-hmm. Which one? The fourth?
The fourth, yeah. Because, we went to London, then got COVID.
Yeah.
Got completely knocked down for a while. The vaccines, they don't stop the disease, but they certainly do make a big impact. Instead of me being down for a month with fatigue, if I'd taken the booster, I would have probably sneezed and said, what was that? And kept going.
Exactly.
That's the difference. And so I love when people go, oh, I'm not going to accuse the difference. So you still get COVID if you get that. No, that's not the purpose of it. That's never been the purpose of the flu shot. It's so it builds up your resistance, just like actually getting COVID builds up your resistance.
Exactly. So keep you from going to the hospital.
So do yourself a favor, right? And get yourself a booster shot.
So, Clay, he's now gone. It's basically like a flu shot. He's never stopped. You said apologize. Forget apologize. He's never even admitting he was entirely wrong about how COVID stops the spread. Let's be clear. It was obvious in the fall of 2021, by October, November, because the cases were skyrocketing and there had been massive, they all do this creative rewriting of history. There was massive spikes in COVID infections. And the idiot brigades, my favorite are the pseudo-Marxists online, left-wing YouTubers and MSNBC commentators who just jumped in the pocket of Big Pharma and were like, why don't you believe the science? It was obvious it wasn't stopping the spread then. But Clay, would you like to call for what Joe? I think Joe's a little upset at you because you've been saying some stuff publicly.
I have been calling him out, and I think he should be called out. And, Buck, you say by the fall. I think certainly everybody should have known it by the fall of 21, but I'll just remind you, you can go back and listen to the Clay and Buck show in the summer of 2021. We were telling you what all the data reflected, and people were like, you're not doctors. Guess what? You don't have to be a doctor to look at data and understand what is significant. You said something yesterday that I thought was good, Buck. Your job at the CIA was to consume a voluminous amount of data and try to distill what mattered out of that voluminous amount of data. That's really the job of anyone who is talking in the media today, because we have a fire hose of stories constantly inundating people, and it's difficult to know exactly what the truth is and what matters on a day-to-day basis. So we try to fix here. But Joe Scarborough, evidently not smart enough to look at the data, he's been name-calling people who are refusing to get the COVID shot, or arguing, hey, you're a loony bin member if you say, hey, the 3 shots didn't keep me from getting COVID, but the 4th shot would have taken care of it.
Can I just be clear also? Even the flu comparison is not fair, because this vaccine, and we're going to play the Bill Gates audio later on. Bill Gates is basically like, yeah, the vaccine doesn't stop spread, and it doesn't actually last, and it doesn't really do anything. And everyone's just going along like this is fine. Bill Gates, Mr. Globalist COVID lockdown policy lunatic, is admitting this is a total failure. Clay, no one gets 4 flu shots in 2 years.
Amen. Also, nobody gets fired over the flu shot. In our entire lives, no one has lost their job over being forced to get or not get the COVID shot. The idea is laughably absurd. Yet that is what happened here. Now let's listen to our good buddy Joe Scarborough. This morning, he's mad that people were mocking him over the reason he got serious COVID was because he hadn't gotten the 4th shot. Listen.
You know, yesterday when I was talking about getting COVID and should have gotten a 4th booster shot, a lot of these freaks go, oh, 4th booster shot, robot. No, listen, here's the deal, moron. If you get a flu shot, what do? Do you go to the doctor? Oh, my God, you want me to have a 50th flu shot? No, you get a flu shot every year.
Right.
And as we're finding out with this pandemic, well, it lasts 6 months, maybe a year. So, yes. How many people have died from COVID?
I've lost track.
Yeah.
I will have to look at the number.
But they'll even lie to you about that, saying, oh, it was actually they broke their ankle and died from a broken ankle.
It's true. A large percentage of people, I'm just going to say it, Joe, if you had a functional brain, you would understand that a large percentage of people that have been attributed as COVID deaths actually died of several other causes other than COVID, including car accidents, murders. If you test positive for COVID in a hospital, you count as a COVID death. If you just even read your buddy Lena Wynn in the Washington Post recently, she even said, well, we've been saying for several years, somewhere around 70 or 80% of people that are listed as COVID deaths now are not actually they're dying with COVID, not of it.
Yeah, Joe Scarborough wrong about everything, but then again, like I said, sold out everything that he ever pretended to believe in so that he could keep a perch on MSNBC for the amusement of libs pretending to be an independent voice. Yeah, right. Just to be clear, with his whole flu shot doesn't prevent illness either, go to cdc.gov. This is what it says when you look up flu vaccination. Every year, flu vaccination prevents illnesses, medical visits, hospitalizations, prevents illnesses. So they actually do claim, just so we're all, this is the CDC as of right now as I'm speaking to you, that it prevents some people from getting sick entirely, prevents any infection whatsoever or any symptoms whatsoever of infection, which is effectively the same thing. So, and by the way, when they say prevent illness, you're looking at this, there's obviously a broad spectrum here, year in and year out. Some flu shots, they guess wrong. They're wrong. They're entirely worthless. That's how effective the flu shot is. And he's like, oh, idiots, it's like a flu shot. Yeah, moron, Joe Scarborough. Thousands of people across the country, hundreds of thousands, got fired from their jobs, people discharged from the military. Clay, I know you're on Fox this morning talking about it. We should never drop this. Everybody who is in the military who is expelled should get all pay, all rank, and an apology from Uncle Sam. I know you were saying that on Fox and Friends this morning. And here we are. They're trying to say, well, it's just like the flu. Actually, it's not, you idiots. It's not just like the flu because they made it into this psychosis machinery of if you don't get this, you're killing grandma, and we're going to get 2 shots a year, 3 shots a year, whatever it takes.
A year ago, Joe Scarborough would have ridiculed anyone who compared COVID to the flu. 2 years ago, he would have demanded that everybody who compared COVID to the flu get banned from social media. But again, the key point here is, and Buck, you're right, I was on Fox News this morning, on Fox and Friends. The key point here is they fired maybe even millions of people, certainly hundreds of thousands, 8,000 plus military members alone, because they refused to get the COVID shot. And not only did they fire them for refusing to get the COVID shot, Buck, they're demanding, our government is, that those troops, those soldiers that they fired, because, by the way, those soldiers were right about the worthlessness of the COVID shot, they're now demanding that they repay any enlistment bonus that they got. That's crazy. Every single one of these guys and girls should be rehired with back pay, all of the negative association with COVID removed from their records, and certainly the idea that the government is going back and trying to get signing bonuses when the government breached, in my opinion, the contract of the signing bonus, not the enlisted person who was fired. I mean, Joe Scarborough is an imbecile. He's an insult to the entire Florida Gulf Coast region that he used to represent in Congress. I love those people. I love that region. I know that there are a ton of them listening to us right now, nodding along. But most importantly, he's just been flat out wrong. So you're going to call people morons, actually know what the data reflects, and also know that you are the moronic individual arguing that if you've gotten the 4th COVID shot, the first 3 didn't work, but the 4th was going to work, the 5th's going to work, the 50th or 60th booster shot that you're going to get for however many years you live for the rest of your life, you, my friend, are the actual moron, without a shadow of a doubt. We mentioned Bill Gates basically after lecturing everybody out there and saying you have to go get this shot, along with that imbecile Joe Scarborough. Bill Gates is now coming out and saying, oh, it turns out this mRNA vaccine technology doesn't work very well. Listen.
Antibodies, antivirals. We think we can also have very early in an epidemic a thing you can inhale that will mean that you can't be infected, a blocker, an inhaled blocker. We also need to fix the 3 problems with vaccines. The current vaccines are not infection blocking. They're not broad, so when new variants come up, you lose protection. And they have very short duration, particularly in the people who matter, which are old people. And every one of those things is fixable. In fact, doing that work is going to help vaccinology very, very broadly.
It's actually not clear at all that all of that is fixable with the mRNA technology. Like he's just basing that on what? Yeah, theoretically it is. But can we just note, Clay, there he puts out the vaccines do not stop the spread. This is from Bill Gates, everybody. This is a fact.
Which is the opposite of a vaccine, right? So they've tried to rephrase like what a vaccine is, why I call it the COVID shot. But never in our lives before, Buck, have you been told, oh, go get this vaccine. You'll still get the virus and be able to spread it. Like that conversation never happened. So that's important.
And then on the other level, it's really short duration and you lose protection entirely with a new variant. So even if they have the right shot for that variant, it only lasts, as we know, 6 weeks maybe. And all that they're really saying lasts is antibody production, where it's not even clear the antibody production that the mRNA vaccine creates is highly or even moderately protective. But even if it were, it only lasts for 6 weeks. And if you get a new strain, it doesn't do basically anything. So this is a catastrophic failure.
A catastrophic failure. And arguably, there is now data out there that reflects you're actually more likely to get COVID after getting multiple shots, and it can start to work against it, making new variants more spreadable and more common. So I appreciate Bill Gates admitting those 3 things, which would have gotten you banned off Twitter over the past couple of years if you had said. But who are they going to test this mRNA on? Like, that's the question that I have, Buck. Why would anybody allow themselves to be a test product for this? Seems crazy given what has already happened.
It really is honestly remarkable what's going on. They're just trying to be like, yeah, you guys are right about everything. What's for lunch? You know, just trying to move right past it.